Before we continue, I gotta ask myself, is anything truly dual type anymore? We're gonna just Terra it and then it becomes a single type, right? What truly is having a consistent type anymore? I've lost many hours of sleep thinking about this. Where's this going? It's gonna go to the part where we're gonna talk about Pokemon whose base types are dual type and not Terra. Although, we are gonna talk about their Terra options anyways. That's just the game. This is the top 10 best dual type Pokemon. The rules are simple. Be in Gen 9, don't be a super legendary, and be the most broken thing to ever live. Pretty simple. So let's go over how every single one of these Pokemon found themselves getting banned or suspected in some way, shape, or form. Honorable mentions to exactly Great Tusk, Kingambit, and Goldango for being the big three of Gen 9 OU. But this isn't about OU. This is about the mons that got banned from it. Also, honorable mention to Cyclozar and Archelodon for existing. That is all. And I stream lo-fi storytelling. Yeah, I should clarify that this is mostly talking about singles, where Incineroar isn't the strongest. However, with mentions to doubles placed in the video at certain points, it would be unfair for me to not bring up the best Pokemon in doubles. For anyone who has touched doubles, you already know why a Pokemon with Intimidate, really strong bulk, strong offenses too, and some of the best utility moves in the game is the best Pokemon in doubles. Fake Out, Parting Shot, Knockoff, Will-O-Wisp, Flare Blitz, yeah, I don't need to explain much further. Now, back to singles. So, recently in a video where I talk about Pokemon who are still excellent, which you should watch by the way, link in the description, unless I forget. Future Mystic, do not forget to go tell them to go watch that video after they finish this one. Now, Volcarona, that's where this is going. Volcarona, as we know, is still absolutely excellent due to its ability to be a giant question mark. You know that Fiery Dance and Quiver Dance are coming, but the Terra, the EV Spread, and the two other moves it runs are always in question, no matter what team it finds itself on. In tandem with Flame Body and its access to heavy-duty boots, this makes Volcarona so unbearably hard to play around since there is so much variance in the mon, and no way to deduce the set. At that point, you know a Pokemon needs to be banned, and being banned twice in the same generation is a feat. That's for sure. But there are Pokemon in Gen 9 that are more obviously broken than the matchup Moth. Recommended Terra, Grass, Water, Fairy, and Lord knows what else. Annihilape is notorious for its snowballing capabilities. Being able to taunt in order to force walls to attack it, being able to stomach any hit from just about any offensive Pokemon, and being able to recover its HP with leftovers and Drain Punch respectively, make Annihilape a pretty solid bulky Pokemon. Bulk Up lets you set up your attack and defense, making the specially defensive set rather profitable too. But the meat and potatoes and what really breaks the Pokemon is Stab Rage Fist. If you're constantly taking and stomaching hits, this attack becomes more and more potent. And with how easy it's been shown to just kinda do that, especially with the Terra out of weaknesses, Annihilape is able to spiral out of control very quickly and decimate teams with Rage Fist, no matter how prepared they think they are. Walls, offense, nothing is safe. Recommended Terra, Water or Fairy are usually the best ones for any defensive mon. But I can see the vision with Terra Fire to not get burned, or Terra Steel or Poison to not get poisoned. Ursaluna Blood Moon is just a stupid bear. I've said it before, and I will say it again. But this time, I have newfound frustration from seeing it on Mono Normal because it is really good. This stupid bear is a fixture on Mono Normal because of its excellent bulk and amazing power, as well as its access to Vacuum Wave for priority, and the fact that it's just an absurd wall of stats. I hate seeing Mono Normal and Team Preview, because this guy and Ditto, and I hate Ditto now, because now my Mono Dragon team doesn't get the D-Dance until it's game. But that's a talk for later. Calm Mind, Body Press, Moonlight, Vacuum Wave, Blood Moon, and Earth Power, as well as its ability, which is just scrappy, but with bells and whistles on it, make it perhaps one of the most blatantly absurd Pokemon of all time. As I've said before, there's a reason why, when this Pokemon was prominent in OU before its ban, it was so prevalent that it caused Blissey to come back from the depths of the lower tiers just to beat it. It caused a blissful resurgence even. I'd say it's one of the few bans in history I am grateful for, but I've been satisfied with every Gen 9 OU ban so far, very much including the next 7 dinguses. Recommended Terra? Poison was the most common to prevent toxic poisoning last I checked. So, I talk about Urshifu and VGC, but I feel like Wolfie can explain that one better. So, to keep this stupid bear short and sweet for VGC, it breaks through Protect, the most common move in the game, and has great stats as well as deals excellent damage. It breaks VGC on a fundamental level. In singles, which is where I'm better in, this Pokemon was utterly dominant the moment it could Terra. Being able to Terra into Water or Dark, depending on which form you wanted the boost from, made its offensive pressure go from tough, but still somewhat manageable, to completely brain-dead broken. Being able to offensively rip through resists thanks to the buff it got to its Water or Dark stab was so offensively potent that both Rapid and Single Strike both had to get banned, with Single going first, being banned in Gen 8 prior, and Rapid going next, having seen too much power from Terra Water. This Pokemon's offense became just dumb and very hard to play around, and it was not fun to deal with. Mega Weavile, Weird Freaking Cat, Diego from Ice Age. This stupid butt with swords and fangs goes by many names, with my personal favorite being Ugh! Because that's how I felt every time I saw this oversized rat in Team Preview when it was allowed. Don't get me wrong, it had answers in OU, but the answers felt oddly specific, and your team was worse against anything that didn't have T and POW, and to an unreasonable degree. Of course, it's banned from OU, didn't stop me from seeing it because I became a monotype player. And because I started playing monotype, guess who I started seeing more of? Yep, that's right, this stupid creature. Being a mono dragon player and seeing that mono dark is the most common type, I think. And said monotype having access to a mon that can end the game outright if I'm not careful is pretty frustrating to say the least. But hey, at the very least, I can queue up OU and stop seeing it. Anything with base 135 speed, an ability that lowers your defense, and a pretty good attack stat should not be allowed to exist. And yet, here we are. And then there's Sacred Sword, Ice Spinner, and Crunch, which are still potent. And your choice of priority, in case something actually outspeeds you somehow, nice Scarfer, uses Sucker Punch or Ice Shard. And don't get me started on seeing it next to Dragonite in doubles. Recommended Terra? Dark. Because Terra Dark Crunch with Choice Band is unrealistically strong. Magearna is a Pokemon I don't know as much about compared to the other mons on this list. This Pokemon has always been mysterious to me. It's always eluded me. But I think that's a part of what got it banned to begin with, because it eluded many others too. Its ability to run a numerous amount of sets, none of which you can guess from Team Preview unless you saw exactly Ursaluna next to it, alongside it having the best typing in the game, excellent bulk, and access to slow pivoting via Volt Switch. Then there's that ability that raises your special attack if you score a KO, Fairy type Draco Meteor, Draining Kiss, Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Agility, Stored Power, and that's all beginning to scratch the surface of just what it can do and what it can mix and match. That's pretty insane. And to make matters worse, as we talked about with Ursaluna, Dr. Robotnik's daughter here also happens to get Trick Room, which back when Magearna and Ursaluna were both OU, turned Ursaluna into an absolute monster. It can do support, it can do offense, it can play utility, it can do whatever the hell it wants. And then more after that, all while having some of the most busted stats for a non-super legendary. This thing needed to go. Recommended Terra, water, because you beat fire, and that's important. I think it's no secret that me and Sneasler have beef for a multitude of reasons. I try not to make my beef with a Pokemon just because it's good, but it's something about the Weasels that power creep Weavile that really gets me. The ones that still keep me awake at night. The ones that tell me, wow, Game Freak did this, but Weavile still doesn't have a real ability. It is actually a crime just how good they made Sneasler. It has pressure, so it can be used on Pressure Stall, which I know Weavile has, but then go and give it 2 actual good abilities and not a gimmick one. They give Sneasler Poison Touch, which has a chance to poison you if it touches, go figure, and then they gave it Unburden, which meant that partnering it up with Rillaboom or Indeedee turned it into an automatic wind machine of insane proportions. And this isn't even mentioning Dire Claw having a 50% chance to just disable a Pokemon on your field. This is ironic madness. And then they go and give it Swords Dance and Acrobatics just to really make sure the Terra Flying Sweeper doesn't lose to anything. Sneasler is an absolutely insane Pokemon, and I believe that it even sees uses on Mono Fighting for its normal gen Fake Out sweeping plan. And Mono Poison, since if you feel like it, you can do Misty Surge and Misty Seed Sneasler, albeit this isn't advised. And then, look at those stats. They wanted to make sure that you all never looked at Hawlucha again, and they damn near succeeded. I don't need to go into too much detail as to why a Pokemon that lowers your special defense, has a base 135 special attack stat, and a solid speed tier is incredibly overpowered, right? There's a reason Chi-Yu got banned from OU before Chi and Pao, and we all know how good that thing is. If you need proof, just stare at this image here. And while you're never really planning to run Specs Overheat just to kill Toxapex, unless you are, the Scarf set does an excellent job at breaking down offense too, rather than going Specs. And the fun part is, you never know if it's Specs or Scarf until it's too late, which, combined with the breaking power, not fun. Recommended Terra, Fire, or Grass. Fire for Super Death, and Grass to beat Water with Terra Blast. Depends on what you need. You would think that Iron Bundle, a Pokemon with no coverage options to speak of, who is relegated to Hydro Pump, Flip Turn, Ice Beam, and Freeze Dry, would be some comically underpowered Pokemon. But as it would turn out, it quite literally only needs its stabs. Ice is resisted by exactly Fire, Water, Steel, and Ice. Fire is put out by the Water-type stab, which also neutrally hits Steel and Ice. And then it hits Water for super effective with Freeze Dry. This makes its combination of moves nigh unwallable. Combine this with its excellent 136 speed, outpacing even Koraidon and Miraidon, its base 124 special attack, and then its solid physical defense, an Iron Bundle can do anything but take a special hit, unless you play Assault Vest, which don't. You would rather just be on Choice Specs or Booster Energy. And then to make things even better, Iron Bundle is good on not one, but 2 separate weathers. It can take advantage of Auroraville support from Alolan Ninetales to become bulkier than it has any right to be, and spam no miss blizzards, or it can opt to work alongside Pelipper's Drizzle and fire off some of the nastiest Terra Water Hydro Pumps I've ever seen in my life. Said Hydro Pumps having the potential to 2-hit KO the average Blissey set. This Pokemon is criminal, and was banned alongside Palafin for good reason. But this isn't even the fastest ban in Gen 9 OU. Because Fluttermane, and technically Houndstone, although it was later released with Last Respects banned, is the fastest ban in Gen 9 OU. This Pokemon lasted not even 3 days if my memory serves right. And that's because Mega Misdreavus over here had some of the most gorked stats and moves of all time. Base 135 to its special attack, special defense, and speed, alongside a stab combination that can only be switched into by Grafaiai and Pyroar, in which case are not wise Pokemon to bring to a serious match. Combine this with its numerous excellent tools to make it an absolute monster. It can run Specs and Booster Energy, both of which are good. I've even seen Mono Ghost Flutter main play Scarf to get the jump on Dragapult, and it's still not even that bad outside of it. And then it gets Mystical Fire, which is powered up by the sun it resides in, which basically makes it a third stab option. And yeah, you can kill it with priority, but what priority are you using other than Scizor Bullet Punch and maybe King Gambit Sucker Punch? To which I say, that's great, but Flutter Mane has 5 teammates solely for the purpose of making sure this doesn't happen. The results speak for itself, being the most used Pokemon in VGC Regulation F for Gen 9, and being the fastest Smogon Gen 9 OU ban. Recommended Terra, Fairy, Fire, or Ghost. Case in point, all of these Pokemon are obscenely busted, and are excellent mons in their own rights. They're a league above the rest in terms of their ability to wreck shop. And all of them have been banned from OU for a good reason. Some of said Pokemon having been VGC staples. Flutter Mane, Chien-Pao, and Urshifu, to name a couple. What do you consider to be the strongest dual typing Pokemon though? Let me know in the comments below. Also be sure to like and subscribe.